Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. I'm Anthony Murphy. This is Live Irish Myths, episode number 174. You're all very welcome to the library this evening, where we are going to continue our investigation, not so much, our exploration is a better word, of the Vikings in Ireland and the effect that they had. Tonight, I'll be reading a little bit from the introduction to Cogadh Gael, Gallaibh, which is, in English, is the Battle of the Gael with the foreigners, or roughly translated, the shit that went down between the Irish and the Vikings. Hope that you are able to hang around and enjoy our episode. It was lovely to have you all on board on St. Patrick's Day for our special bonus episode concentrating on the mythology of St. Patrick's story. We are live streaming simultaneously on the Mythical Ireland Facebook page and on the Mythical Ireland YouTube channel. If you are watching this evening, feel free to say hello. And as usual, we'll say hello back. Special announcement coming shortly. But first of all, let's say hello to everybody who's here. Guido Bruce is the first in the house this evening. Guido, it is a great pleasure to see you. Congratulations on all the work on the house. Looks fantastic. Did I respond to your message? I'm not sure that I did. Apologies about that. Looks wonderful. And congratulations on all of that. Lexi Erickson is in the house. Been looking forward to this. Well, so have I. As always, it's always a great pleasure to welcome Natua Golair, Fudna Crunya, into the Lowerlin. It's great to welcome all of our friends from around the world. Catherine Hupp, good evening, good sir. Cheers from Colorado. Good afternoon to all our friends in the United States and to all our Coloradoans. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but it's coming from a Droghedian. There you go. Barbara Barney's in the house. Hi, Anthony. Hi, everyone. As usual, my tripod is blocking the comments. Got to get a better setup here. Got to get one of those arms, spring-loaded arms connected to the shelf there in front of me. Anyway, that's besides the point. Barbara, you're very welcome. Bethany Cutler says, hello, Anthony. And 7 O's. Wow. Hello to you also, Bethany. It's good for you to join us, and we're delighted to have your company. Helena Breen is in the house. Evening to you, Helena. Thank you for joining us. Anne McCallum. Hello, Anton of the Mighty Tua. Greetings from a lovely, sunny, fresh spring day in southwest Ontario. Good to hear that maybe winter is starting to wane in Ontario. Hope everyone's well. Look forward to part 3 of the Viking saga. Yes, indeed. Weather's fabulous here in the Boyne Valley. We have a big high pressure over us. Sun shining all day long. And of course, the days are much longer now than they were a few weeks ago. High temperatures during the day. We saw 14 Celsius, maybe 15 Celsius today. Bit of a cool breeze coming in off the sea, but we are not complaining about that. It's not raining. Daisy Peters is in the house. Daisy is watching from Brazil. Daisy, it's always a pleasure to welcome you to the library. Madison Morell is in New Brunswick in Canada. No face paint today. No, not on this occasion. Hope you enjoyed it. I couldn't get a ridiculous St. Patrick's Day hat just in time for the episode. But you know what? Maybe in future we'll do something crazy like that. Nora Gaffney O'Connor's in the house. G.F. Golair, lovely swim today. Got a bit of sunburn. Wow. This is what I'm saying. It's spring has sprung. Equinox greetings from Archaeoastronomy Database, whose tie, although astronomical equinox is on the 20th, the midpoint between the solstices will be tomorrow, the 22nd. There you go. Thank you for sharing that information. Mandy McCurl is in a sun-kissed and very windy Isle of Mull, but at least you have the sun, Mandy. That's a good start. Can I say it? Mandy will be joining us at the official first in-person gathering of the Tua, which, in case you weren't aware of it, will be taking place, all going well, on Sunday, the 22nd of May at 2 p.m. on the Hill of Tara. So if you want to join us, absolutely, feel free, come along. The only proviso is that you bring good humour with you, and preferably good weather. That would be nice. The plan is that we are going to, hopefully, all going well, have a picnic in the banqueting hall on the Hill of Tara. And if you are interested, I'll give you a quick tour of the place and talk about some of the myths and monuments. And there will be much re-raw August Rulya Bulya. That's the main intention. If you insist, I may also tell one or two dad jokes. Valerie Gallagher is saying hello from back in the States at the beach, though. Valerie, what a pleasure it was to meet you in the Boyne Valley last week on such a beautiful evening at Douth and the Hill of Slane. And glad to hear that you got home safely. Good afternoon to you. Barbara Murphy is watching in Tucson, Arizona. Hello, Barbara. Always a pleasure to welcome another Murphy into the house. Wayne Bird, I should have mentioned that your prize is in the post. I hadn't mentioned it previously, but you won second prize on our special draw a couple of weeks ago. And your prize of the revised and expanded edition of Mythical Ireland is on its way to you as we speak. And hello to you. Britt Griffin is glad to be here. Sunny but a bit chilly in Cobalt, Ontario. Cobalt, wow. Nice colour. Yes, indeed. I hope all our friends in Canada are feeling the spring as much as we are here in the Boyne Valley. Brendan Byrne, who's in Glendalough, says good evening to one and all. Brendan, a great pleasure to have you along. Paddy McCovale, or Paul Campbell, as we might call him. Trenonawa, Jeev. Paddy, you're very, very welcome, and thank you for joining us. And Scott Doherty, and thank you for the little spelling correction earlier on, by the way. Always, these things are important. I'm a proofreader. That's what I do for a living. You know what I mean? You think I'd get it right, you know? And Scott Doherty's in the house, and it's a wonderful pleasure to welcome you to the live stream. Catherine Long is in San Antonio in Texas, and it's a great pleasure. Is that the same as the San Antone that Johnny Cash sings about in Folsom Prison Blues? On down to San Antone. Is that the same place? Paddy says the Danes came to Ireland with nothing to do but dream of the plundered old Irish they slew. Yeah, Will and your Vikings, said Brian Baru, and threw them back in the ocean. Yes, he did. However, he got his skull cracked open in the effort. Unfortunately, he didn't live to see the benefits of the victory. Trina Nierk is in the house. Welcome, Trina, and thank you for the music. Trina has been providing us with some lovely musical interludes of late. Lexi is saying that Colorado ones is fine. Great, I guessed right. Brilliant. Mariana Dunn, Banathy, and happy spring to Artua. And Anthony Murphy from sunny Virginia. Brilliant stuff, Mariana. I remember in the early live streams, I used to ask, is that Virginia in County Cavan or Virginia in the States? And you clarified that it is, in fact, Virginia in the States. Good afternoon to you. Dober Lord is calling for the People's Republic of Cork. Well, sure, look, we all know you might as well put a permanent border up, you know. You could even maybe gouge it out and sort of make an island of it, you know, make us stamp our passports as we head into Cork. Catherine Woodruff is in Wisconsin and looking forward to a grand time listening. Brilliant, Catherine. Tarini Pendleton is, I keep saying it, I have this picture. You're on a lounger, under a sunshade, sipping a pina colada on the beach in California, but I suspect that Laguna Beach is a city or a town rather than, you know, you're not necessarily having a swim or getting a suntan. Adrian Beglin is in the house. Adrian, a great pleasure to welcome you back. Good to see you. Teresa Conway is in Achill, not far from our good friend John Main, who is in Belmullet. Teresa, delighted to hear that the weather is fine on Achill. And over the last few days, the west has had it better than the east because we've got this cool breeze coming in off the Irish Sea. Jenna McGagan is in sunny Wisconsin. 30 days until we have our feet on Irish soil. Brilliant stuff. You'll be counting down the days and the hours. Joe is in the house. Auntie Joe. I'll share to the two other pages if no one had a chance yet. Brilliant stuff, Joe. You're very, very good. Thank you for that. Tom Byrne is in West Limerick. Tom, it's a great pleasure to welcome you to Live Irish Myths. Pat, Lev, preach it, son. Sure, why not? Desiree Riley is here. Hello, Anthony on the two. I'm so happy to be here with everyone from cold and windy Grand Junction, Colorado. Hopefully, the spring is just kind of pushing the winter out of the way gradually, Desiree, but good to see you. Tom King is here. Hello there, Anthony and the Mighty Two. A fabulous day in the Boyne Valley. You're not wrong, but Tom, you're not wrong about that. Hope all a good fettle. Looking forward to some stories on the Vikings. Yes, indeed, Tom. Stay tuned. Marianne Cheek Knapp is saying Ostara blessings to you, the Germanic version, but that's perfectly okay because they were Celts too. Blessed spring with time change. You're at 4 o'clock instead of 3. Glad I caught you. We will be springing forward next weekend, next Sunday. So it will revert to the usual time difference. But thanks for joining us, Marianne. Bev Davis is in Texas where it's raining. What? I don't believe it. As Victor Meldrew used to say. Anybody know who Victor Meldrew is? Some of the Irish and the British viewers will know. I'm not sure any of the American viewers will know. I don't believe it. It's raining in Texas. By God, what a shock. Mark Gordon is in Iowa. Good afternoon, Mark. You're very welcome. Wayne Bird is saying cheers. Brilliant stuff, Wayne. I hope you really enjoy it. I'm sure you will. Kathy Sue Sylvester says hello, Kathy Sue. It's great to see you. You're very welcome to the library. Catherine Long says, yes. That's an affirmation if ever you wanted one. The full Irish Gary is in the house. Good evening, great and good to another fine day on the sod. You know what? It was absolutely a beautiful day. And think about it. Next week, it'll still be bright when we're starting the live stream. Super. Barbara Kling is in sunny Vermont. Spread the sunshine, Barbara. Great to see you. San Antone is the same place. Brilliant stuff. Excellent. Sheila Gunn is saying hello from sunny Ontario. Sheila, hello there, and you're very, very welcome. Peter Kennedy's just down the road in Ballybrigeen. Happy equinox, everybody. Yes, indeed. Spring equinox was yesterday, but as Ty has pointed out, the halfway point is actually tomorrow. Interesting stuff. Jane Wynn says, good evening to all. Jane, you're very, very welcome to Live Irish Myths. It's great to see you. Robin Rickman is in a Western Pennsylvania, where it is a cool spring day. Brilliant. Well, I hope that the plants are growing and that the animals are happy and the humans. That helps. Eileen Patricia Hoyt is in Charleston, South Carolina. Eileen, what a pleasure to welcome you to Live Irish Myths. Bernie Courtney wants another song. I hear the train a-coming. I'll get a ban from YouTube over this. It's rolling round the bend, but I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. I'm never going to get down to that one, but what is it? But that train, it keeps on rolling on down to San Antone. Yeah, I think I started on the wrong key. Just delete that. We'll edit that out of the final version. But by the way, Bernie is in Castlebar in the county of Mayo. What a pleasure, Bernie. Welcome along. Elizabeth Champagne is in Vancouver in British Columbia in Canada, where it is the middle of the day. I hope it's a nice one. On the west coast, Tarini Pendleton says, yes, it is a town. Brilliant stuff. Salav is saying, Banachty Ohos, August Solish, O Chiaurach, Mochara, and a lovely night. I wish all the two a wonderful evening. Thank you, Salav, and many happy returns to you. Karen Murphy Beglin says hello. Love, part of the surname. Anyway, the Sea Warriors of the world unite. That's yourself and Barbara Murphy and myself. All the Murphys in the house. Angel Barboni has joined us. Angel, what a beautiful name. A ray of light in a world of darkness. Angel, you're so welcome. Catherine Long is even raining in San Antone. What can I say? Johnny Cash didn't sing about the rain in San Antone, I can tell you. Yes. Scroll. Therese Conway, good attempt. Yeah. 2 out of 10. You know when the jury hold up the scoreboards and they're all sort of dour faced. 2. Thanks anyway. John Main, Banachty, Anthony, and all the Tua. Good to be here from a dry but chilly evening, Belmullet, County Mayo. Looking forward to learning more about Ireland's Norse and Viking heritage. John, you're very welcome as always. Anna L is saying good evening and from Balbriggan. Good singing. You are waiting your talent, Anthony. Is that wasting? Look, I could have been a crooner. But only on a cruise ship. I don't think I'd ever have made it big, to be honest. Niall Farrell is in Frankfurt, Germany. Niall! Hello, Niall! And Rosie! Hello there! You're very welcome. Apparently, you have stumbled upon my YouTube channel and are watching it on the big screen. Well, look, beats the hell out of having to watch something dreadful on the TV, like what's that one? Below Deck, is it? Or no, don't even go there. But it's great to see you. Kathy Sue Sylvester says hello. Giagwich Kathy, welcome to the live stream. I'm seeing repeat comments here for some reason. This is an interesting comment. Wayne Bird says the large Triskel is looking great. A beautiful piece of artwork. Hold that thought for a couple of minutes. Yes, I'm seeing a lot of repeat comments. Anyway, not to worry. So Niall is known to me. We have met, and his wife is someone that I work with. So there you go. Brilliant. Small world, eh? Small world on the big TV. Anyway, an announcement before we begin the episode proper. We are all very familiar with the work of Tom King. On Gawa, depending on what way you want to pronounce it, and his wonderful creations, which of course you're very, very familiar with because they do get quite frequent mentions here on Mythical Ireland. So as of today, up to today, I'm going the opposite direction of Johnny Cash now, getting higher in pitch instead of lower. You could, through the Mythical Ireland website, get yourself some of Tom's creations, which included the Swan Spiral Pendant, which is inspired by the myths and legends of Ireland, particularly Angus and Care at Brunabonia, and of course the Children of Lear. You could also get yourself, inspired by an episode where I mentioned opening mail, the Mythical Ireland letter opener. Look at that. Made from mild black steel. And what has been up to now the pièce de résistance, which is the large Triskel, which Wayne was just talking about a moment ago. I am just thrilled with these things. I'm lucky. I have one of each. Anyway, as of this moment in time, there are new items on the Mythical Ireland website right now. And that's mythicalireland.com. And if you go into gallery and shop, in the drop down, you will see Cogadh Creations. And you can go in there. Anyway, let me introduce them to you. Before you go scrolling, don't get distracted now. The first of the new line of items from Tom King's Forge, which is in Bohermeen, in the heart of the Boyne Valley, only a stone's throw from the Hill of Tara, and not that far from Brunabonia. First item tonight on the new items is the Spiral Pendant. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? What a piece of work. Better just make sure I have the prices right, Tom. Yes, indeed. I know them, but just to be sure. And of course, they come with the letter, so you can hang them around your neck and model them and show them off to your friends. The Spiral Pendant is €40 plus postage and packaging. And of course, that varies as to where you are in the world. There are different options. Ireland covers Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, Britain, Europe, USA and Canada, and Australia and rest of the world. So there you go. There's the first of 4 new items. The second is the small crescent moon pendant. Tom, I'd argue that that's kind of like an eclipse pendant, but it's beautiful. And again, they all come with the old, and you can hang it around your neck and show it off. That is also €40 plus postage and packaging. Should mention that the postage is registered post, not normal post. Technically, it should get there quicker, but it will almost certainly get there safely. The small crescent moon pendant and its big brother, the large crescent moon pendant. Look at that. Isn't that a work of beauty, isn't it? Isn't that fabulous? So just to show you the sizes, small, large, or close, far away. Father Ted, never mind. The large crescent moon pendant is €60 plus registered post and packaging. Now, We're nearly there. We'll start the reading now. Don't worry. Don't worry. The advertising will be over shortly. Let me introduce what I consider to be, like, they're all fabulous, right? Absolutely. And in my opinion, you'll want all of them. But the pièce de résistance for me in the new line is, how many of you, we know that you all love this one, the large Triskel. We all know that you love it. Why? Because this is the best seller. Wouldn't you love if Tom would make a wearable version of that, wouldn't you? Like a smaller version that you can hang around your neck, wouldn't you? Wouldn't that be a brilliant idea? The man has delivered in exceptional quality. Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the Triskel pendant from the master smith, Tom King, on Cogadh of the Forge in Bohermeen, available now on the Mythical Ireland website from this moment at mythicalireland.com. Gallery and shop on Cogadh Creations. Triskel pendant. The Triskel pendant is €80 plus postage and packaging, which will vary according to your location. And I am going to wear that around my neck for the rest of the live stream. So there it is, look. Wearing that very, very proudly. What a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. And congratulations to Tom. Tom uses mostly traditional methods. Quite a few people, visitors to his forge from the Tua, have been able to see up close exactly what he does. So you know it's not an industrial thing. None of these are molds. None of these are produced on an industrial scale. Every single piece is handcrafted with love, dedication, and care. And if you want to see exactly what's involved, then you can have a look at my attempts to make a large swan spiral pendant, which I did during our live stream. It wasn't a live stream, it was recorded live. Our video from Tom's Forge at the end of January. And that's a piece that Tom made, but I have one similar that I made that I do wear from time to time. Anyway, that's the story. Get over to mythicalireland.com and get... Oh, look, I don't doubt it. That one, I think, Tom, you've just surpassed yourself. It's beautiful. And the thing is, it's not heavy. You know, it's very, very solid. Like, there's absolutely there's no bend in that or anything. It's rock solid, metal solid, steel solid even. But it's not heavy. It's not the sort of thing that would, cause you to get a pain in your neck or anything like that. But yeah, we're going to have a lovely moment here on Live Irish Myths. Daddy! Son! Oh! Sorry. Dreadful. Yeah, it's a good job you're not paying for the humor. That's all I can say. You'd be asking for your money back. Anyway, lots of comments there about gasp and whoa, look at that. Tom, get the forge lit. Hang on a second. What am I saying? Get the forge lit. The forge's always lit. I know you're in the background forging away there as we speak. Buddy is suggesting that I wear it to the nightclub. It would make an interesting conversation piece, But don't forget that the only place, am I right? Yes, in the megalithic world, the only place that you find the Triskel, the triple spiral emblem, is at Newgrange in the Boyne Valley. You find double spirals and single spirals on lots of other monuments, but the only place where you find them in that configuration is on the entrance curbstone to Newgrange and on one of the chamber stones inside. So lots of nice comments there. We will get on with the reading. Sheila says, all absolutely gorgeous. Brilliant stuff. Dogda and Angus. Yes, or if you can think of a mother-daughter combination, Mandy, Mandy's comment won't come up. There you go. Anyway, thank you all for your patience. Tonight, we are back talking about the Vikings. So if you weren't aware, Cogadh Gael Gallaibh is what is considered to be something of a panegyric to Brian Boru and the Dáil Cosh, because you'll remember from our previous episodes, which were last week and the week before, that Brian's rise to power was very interesting, because the Dáil Cosh, who were based in the eastern part of County Clare, were a relatively small and obscure tribe until the kingship of Cashel was suddenly vacated, and the rise to power is very, very interesting. I read this a while back and was absolutely fascinated by it. We're going to read a little bit. Some of this will be a little bit scholarly, and then perhaps we'll do a small amount of reading from Matthew Stout's fantastic book, Early Medieval Ireland. There are lots of books about medieval Ireland. I highly recommend Matthew Stout's book as a wonderful scholarly work aimed at a scholarly and a general audience, not least because of the plethora of maps in it, which explain all the action, but also the pronunciation guides to the Irish names and place names that are in the margins, which is very, very helpful. It's absolutely fabulous. Lots and lots of visual information in there, as well as very, very good reading. Paul Campbell is in Galway on the West Coast. Yes, indeed, Paul, you're very, very welcome. I love that Tom keeps making new lovely items. I hope to collect all his creations in time. Such lovely work. Brilliant stuff, Desiree. Tom is very happy with the feedback, and as you can see from the flames, he's busy trying not to burn his fingers while he's making his wonderful creations. And aren't I lucky, blessed in fact, to be the first person in the world to own one of these wearable Triskel pendants? I mean, absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Doris. Kathleen Glassley is now jumping in from California. Brilliant stuff. Jump away, Kathleen. You're very welcome. Sean is VK4VO. That's a ham radio call sign for those not familiar. VK4VO DEEI2KC5NNOM. Now, there's a language that none of the rest of them will understand. Apart from HF, the Vikings has always been of big interest to myself. By the way, thanks for the new one the other week on 30 meters. You're very welcome, Sean. I didn't realize Echo India was new for you, but always a pleasure. I find it, I just have this thing about working VK on ham radio. A couple of months ago, I worked a string of VK6s on 10 meters. I think that was in the morning time. And it's always a thrill, no matter what the band. I also worked somebody on 80 meters recently. It was only my second ever contact into VK on 80 meters. Anyway, that stuff will go over the heads of 99.9% of the audience. Hello from Denmark, says Ulla. You're very, very welcome. The author and age of the work. So this is an introduction to Cogadh Gael Gallaibh. Now, this is one of these facsimile reprints. But as I'm always saying, the facsimile reprints are fabulously valuable because they're an exact reprint of the original with all the footnotes and with all the correct typography, including, by the way, where the text is being translated, the original Irish in the old Irish script, not the more modern script, which is fabulous. This was originally published, I can't remember now, but I'll just, I think it's 1837. No, 1857. 1857. Okay, is everybody comfortable? Mark Gordon says that was over his head. Yes, indeed, over your head. I promise that I will only talk about ham radio in a ham radio video and not in a Mythical Ireland video, except for when VK4VO drops in to say hello. What? It must be early in the morning there, Sean, presume. Is it something like 7:30 in the morning or something? A very good Tuesday morning to you from Monday evening in the Boyne Valley. The Cogadh Gael Gallaibh, or Wars of the Gael with the Gaul, and Gaul is a word that the Irish use for foreigners. They applied it to the Vikings, but also at times to the English, believe it or not. That is to say, of the Irish with the Norsemen, has been frequently quoted by Keating. That's Geoffrey Keating, Keating's History of Ireland. It was known also to Colgan, and the Four Masters have occasionally transferred its very words to their pages. It is mentioned also by McCurtain, that's Jeremiah McCurtain, in his discourse on in vindication of the antiquity of Ireland. That was published in 1717. I'm pretty sure, yes, I do. I have a facsimile reprint of that as well. And O'Halloran, and that is History of Ireland from Volume 2, London, 1778. At a time when books about history and mythology were only read by mostly by English language speaking scholars, mostly of foreign descent, because remember, in the late 1700s, most Irish people couldn't read or write, and they all spoke Oscailge, who cite it as in then time. I apologize. Oh, as in their time. Script isn't always copied across just 100%. An accessible authority of which the original was well known. But for many years, all copy of it were supposed to have perished until the discovery of the Dublin manuscript by O'Curry, Mr. O'Curry, in 1840. I presume that's Eugene O'Curry. Soon afterwards, it was ascertained that another copy was preserved at Brussels, together with some other Irish manuscripts of great interest. The editor accordingly went there in August 1848 and made a full collation of the Brussels copy with the Dublin manuscript, transcribing all that was necessary to supply the deficiencies of the latter. And if you're wondering, the author of this is James Henthorne Todd, and as I say, published 1857. Afterwards, through the influence of the Earl of Clarendon, then Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, he obtained from the Belgian government a loan of this and some other manuscripts, and in 1853 caused a complete copy of it to be made by Mr. O'Curry for the Library of Trinity College, Dublin. These transcripts have been carefully collated in forming the text of the present edition. The work has external as well as internal evidence of antiquity. Its author, as we have seen, was a contemporary and strong. And I'm not reading the beginning of the introduction just in case we may have skipped some detail, but we can't read it all tonight, unfortunately. Was a contemporary. Sorry, the author, as we have seen, was a contemporary and strong partisan of King Brian Boruva. It exhibits, that's Brian Boru to you and me, it exhibits many traces of the political feelings engendered by the intestine dissensions of the Dáil Cois and their conquest for sovereignty with the Clan Coleman in the 10th and 11th centuries. Copies of it were preserved in the historical collections made by eminent antiquaries in the early part of the 12th century. The author makes no use of the era Anno Domini, but dates from the reigns of the kings of Ireland and Munster, sometimes also from local events in the provincial history of Ireland, which is fascinating. You know, the dates aren't, as I say, ascribed AD for Anno Domini, but rather in relation to the reigns of kings. Dr. O'Connor, who is Dr. O'Connor? There's a footnote. Oh, he's an expert on the annals of the Four Masters, or he was in the 19th century, asserts without hesitation that the author of this work was Mott Leag, whose death is recorded by the Four Masters in the year 1015. The true date being 1016, because there's a difference of a year in the annals quite often. Mac Leag, i.e. Murchertach, son of Curcher, is it Cuchertach, chief poet Ard Olive of Ireland at that time, died, and that is an entry from the annals of the Four Masters, otherwise known as the Annals of Ireland. They were compiled, I think, in the 1630s. In the Dublin Annals of Inishfallen at AD 1016, the same event is thus recorded. Mac Leag, i.e. Murchertach Beg, son of Maelchertach, chief poet Ard Olive of Ireland, died in the island called Inish on Gallaibh in the Shannon. And of course, Gallaibh, we were talking about that in either the previous episode or the first episode of the series, in which the Fingal were the bright or the good foreigners and the Gallaibh, the black or the dark or the baddies. Is there such thing as a good Viking? Well, maybe we'll hear more. But the editor has not discovered any ancient authority for attributing this work to Mac Leag. The Four Masters make no mention of its author. McCurtain and O'Halloran, who have quoted it by the Irish title it still bears, are silent as to the author's name. Even O'Reilly, in his list of MacLeag's work, omits the Cogadh Gael Gallaibh. Colgan had a copy of it, the same most probably which is now in the Brussels collection. He has given the following account of it, in which, however, he says nothing of its author. And the reason that Cogadh Gael Gallaibh is important, not only is it a panegyric or a work composed in praise of Brian Boru and the Dáil Cosh, it is, of course, a very good chronicle of the events of that period of time during which the Vikings harried, harassed, and gave us a shit hard time here in Ireland, beginning in the 9th century, and of course, pretty much culminating with the Battle of Clontarf in 1014. And this is what Colgan. I'm wondering who Colgan is. I know that name. Is that I can't remember the first name, and it's not in the footnotes. It should come to me. Colgan had a copy. Yes, he said that. This is Colgan's quote. I have a full history written of these wars of Ireland, which, in the vulgar tongue, there's nothing vulgar about Gaelget, thank you very much, is called Cogadh Gael Gallaibh, i.e. the wars of the Irish with the foreigners, in which from AD 812, when, as Eginhard or some other author of the same age in his Life of Charlemagne says, quote, the fleet of the Northmen invaded Ireland, the island of the Scotti, and that's a whole other discussion about how Scotland got its name from an Irish tribe, and after a battle with the Scots, an innumerable multitude of the Northmen was destroyed, and in an ignominious flight returned home. And not all of them returned home, as we have found out in our previous 2 episodes. Some of them did stay in Dublin. Alan Hoskins is recording this for watching back later. Oh, and I should say to Kathy, hello to Kathy May Deo. Kathy May is on a different lunch break today, can't watch live, but she said she'd watch the catch-up. So hello, Kathy May, when you're watching later. Movanwe Millward is in the house. Love the summary there. The Vikings gave us a shit hard time. Yes, indeed. And for other similar summaries, follow this channel. Just making sure I haven't missed anyone. Patricia O'Leary is in the house. Hello, Patricia. Collect Kavanagh. And Baby Yoda is in the house. Well, there you go. Use the force. Use the force. Almost every year afterwards, we read of fresh battles and conflicts of the Irish with the Danes and Northmen until the year 1012 or 1013, brackets, read 1014, when, in a great battle fought on the plain of Clontarf near Dublin, with very great slaughter on both sides, the strength of each was so irreparably weakened that neither people has since been able, even to the present day, to recover its original strength and power. Interesting. I don't think modern scholars would agree with that too much. And the version that we read last week made it out that the Vikings were completely routed at the Battle of Clontarf and could neither retreat to the bridge or make it to their ships, and were slaughtered en masse. So I don't know. Anyway, they say history is written by the victor, and perhaps it's a little bit one-sided. For there fell in that battle the principal chieftains and nobles, both of the Irish and Northmen, with the far-famed King of Ireland himself, Brian Borumha, and that's the Irish Borumha, but that is quite, well, it's nearly always shortened to Brian Boru, Brou, who says Marianus Scotus on Good Friday, 9 Cal man, was slain, his hands and mind intent on prayer to God. Again, that's not what we read last week. We read that his mind was entirely focused on, are we going to win this bloody battle? But anyway, he may have had some time to pray to God as well. But sure, look, it depends on which Christian scribe was writing the story down at the time. Keating also At the commencement of his history of the invasions of the Northmen, in the reign of Ead Onia, quotes the Cogadh Gael Gallaibh under that name as his principal source of information, and tells us that his narrative is only an abridgment of that work. He says nothing, however, of its author. Can it be believed that these eminent authorities could all have been ignorant of the fact that the work had been composed by Gallaibh, the chief poet of Ireland, the Ard Olaf, the bard of King Brian himself, or, knowing this, could have concealed a circumstance so important to its authenticity? That is a very good question. So apparently the experts were quite miffed as to who the source was. Some of them just blandly said that it was Gallaibh, and others dispute that. And if Keating, the Four Masters, and Colgan were ignorant of its authorship in the 17th century, how did Dr. O'Connor in the 19th acquire the information on the subject which enabled him to attribute it so dogmatically to Gallaibh? Gallaibh died, as we have seen, in 1016, 2 years only after his master Brian. He had, therefore, it may be said, but a short time to compile this work, which is brought down to the year of the Battle of Clontarf, in which Brian fell. But it was surely not possible that in 2 years a diligent, well-read author should have composed such a history. Good point. He might have had the earlier part of it written and lying by him long before. Neither is it a conclusive argument that a stanza of poetry, of which Gallaibh is himself said to have been the author, is quoted in the book. This may have been one of the interpolations which we know were introduced into later transcripts. Of course, that was a regular thing, interpolations. Susan Scott is in the house. No, you're not early, or you're a little bit late. But I mean, you know, we don't chastise people who are late. It's a no-brown zone. Pull up a chair and get comfortable. You've only missed about 10 minutes, I'd say. No, sorry about this, because I lost my place, and I really should put my thumb or my finger on the line to make sure I don't miss it. Or the author himself may have quoted one of his own poems, naming himself, which is not unusual, in the third person. It may be fairly argued, however, that if the transcribers had believed Gallaibh to have been the author of the prose narrative, whether they had found the poetical quotation in the original manuscript or not, they would scarcely have passed over the opportunity of saying so. There are one or two other apparent indications of a more recent date which may be properly noticed here. One of these is that the Danes are made to speak English. This would have been a natural mistake enough for an Irish author of such a period subsequent to the 12th century, who was not well versed in Teutonic languages. The English were generally, and indeed are still very commonly, called in Ireland by the name of Gael. What I was saying earlier, Gael being a foreigner, or foreigners, which was given to the Norsemen. But the mistake, however natural, could not have been committed before the English invasion, and therefore, if the words are really English and were so written by the original author, they would be evidence against the early date of the work. But this is by no means certain. We are told that, quote, this is a quote from page 175 of the text, Plate, son of the King of Lochlan, unquote, having been challenged by Donal MacEvan, a Scottish chieftain, to single combat, cried out at the head of the troops on the following morning. What is that? Faris Donal, is it? I'm not sure whether that's an or not. I apologize. Sometimes it depends on the quality of the facsimile reprint. Some of them are superb. Some of them are not wonderful. It depends on the quality of the original from which it's scanned as well, which the Irish historian translates into his own tongue, Coch Ita Donal, where, Coch Ita, which is the early Irish for, I think, is it Coch? I'm not even going to try. Where is Donal? Well, Ita would be Ata. Cod. It's not cod, because cod is what, isn't it? Never mind. One of the experts on here will know. Faris, however, may be an attempt to represent the pronunciation of the Danish HVA or yeah, there's a little gap there too. I do apologize. Although it certainly looks more like the English where is. In another place, we read that when Earl Brodder, after the battle, rushed into Brian's tent. This is the guy who remember, hewed Brian's skull in two with an axe. What After the battle, rushed into Brian's tent, one of his followers cried out, "King! King!" Brodder, seeing that Brian had been at prayers, answered, "No, no, but what is that? Prist, looks like. Prist. These words are apparently English. Nonetheless, the original Danish may have been translated into English by modern transcribers. The portion of the narrative in which the words occur exists only in the Brussels manuscript, and it is not improbable that O'Clery, transcribing in the 17th century, familiar with the English language, may have written king for Kong, Konge, Prist for Prester, Prest, and no for nay, no for ne fada, or else that all this may be an interpolation. These considerations render it impossible to regard this argument as absolutely conclusive against the early date of the work. He sounds like he's having a whole discussion with himself about it. There's another difficulty. Brian's servant or personal attendant who was with him during the battle is said to have been named Latian, Latean, and it is added, quote, "from whom are descended the O'Latians still in Munster," unquote. It is clear that the original author, if he had written when Latian, the ancestor of this family, was alive, could not possibly have thus spoken of his descendants. Good point. A little bit of detective work required when reading the old Irish manuscripts, very much so. But a clause of this kind is just the sort of interpolation that a scribe living at a later period, when the family of O'Latian had multiplied, would have naturally introduced, forgetting the anachronism of which he thereby made his author guilty. On the whole, we may conclude that, although the work in its present form is modernized and interpolated, the original of it was nevertheless undoubtedly ancient. There is no evidence to prove that its author was Mac Liag, the bard of the Dál Cosh, in the court of King Brian Boru. But its author was either himself an eyewitness to the Battle of Clontarf, or else compiled his narrative from the testimony of eyewitnesses. He was certainly, as we have already observed, a partisan of King Brian. That the work was compiled from contemporary materials may be proved by curious incidental evidence. It is stated in the account given of the Battle of Clontarf that the full tide, wait till you hear this is incredible, the full tide in Dublin Bay on the day of the battle, which you'll remember was Good Friday, the 23rd of April 1014, coincided with sunrise, and that the returning tide at evening aided considerably in the defeat of the enemy. So what he's saying there is basically that the tide was turning at a critical time in the battle. And as you know, what happened was the tide was coming in when the Vikings were trying to retreat and they couldn't get to their boats. It occurred to the editor, on considering this passage, that a criterion might be derived from it to test the truth of the narrative and of the date assigned by the Irish annals to the Battle of Clontarf. He therefore proposed to the Reverend Samuel Houghton, MD, Fellow of Trinity College and Professor of Geology in the University of Dublin, no less, to solve for him this problem. Quote, "What was the hour of high water at the shore of Clontarf in Dublin Bay on the 23rd of April 1014, unquote. The editor did not make known to Dr. Houghton the object he had in view in this question, and the coincidence of the result obtained with the ancient narrative is therefore the more valuable and curious. This is a fabulous piece of detective work. Dr. Houghton communicated the particulars of his calculation to the Royal Irish Academy in May 1861 in the following words. Hang on a second. I thought this book was published in the 1850s. Was I wrong about that? 1867. I do apologize. That's my mistake. With the following words, quote, "From 12 o'clock noon of the 23rd of April 1014 to the noon of the 12th of December 1860, allowing for the change of style and leap years, there were 309,223 real days. This is incredible. The synodical period of the moon is 29.53058871 days. Archaeoastronomy database, Ty knew that figure off by heart. And new moon occurred on 12th of December 1860 at 47.6 minutes after noon. Multiplying the length of the synodical month by 10,472 months, we find a total of what looks like 309,241.325 days. From which, subtracting the number of days, this is fascinating. I hope you're not all asleep at this point. From which, subtracting the number of days from 23rd of April 1014 to 12th of December 1860, or 309,228 days, we find 21,325 days, or 21 days, 7 hours, 48 minutes. And there follows detailed calculations, which I will not read out. I'll just try to get to the end of it. There's a page of calculations there. Yeah. Yes. I shall now show that the calculation of the tides makes it quite certain that the date 1014 falls in with all the physical circumstances related of the battle. It appears from the calculation that I've given already that the age of the moon at noon on 23rd of April 1014 was 21.292 days, or 21 days, 7 hours. The tide was therefore a neap tide, and the moon in her third quarter. From the Academy's observations, that's basically last quarter or last half moon to you and me. From the Academy's observations on the tides around the coast of Ireland, it appears that on such a day of the moon's age, at the spring equinox, the tide at Kingstown is full at 5 hours 22 minutes in the morning. Kingstown being the old name for Dunleary, which is on the south side of Dublin Bay. From which it follows that the tide along the Clontarf shore, when not obstructed by embankments and walls, could not have differed many minutes on 23rd of April 1014 from 5 hours 30 minutes AM. The evening tide being full at 5 hours 55 minutes PM. Wow. Caitlin, feel free to, and hello, good evening to you, by the way. Feel free to drop me a message later on, and we can talk about that. The truth of the narrative is thus most strikingly established. In the month of April, the sun rises from 5 hours 30 to 4 hours 30 minutes. The full tide in the morning therefore coincided nearly with sunrise, a fact which holds a most important place in the history of the battle, and proves that our author, if not himself an eyewitness, must have derived his information from those who were. None others, as Dr. Houghton observes, could have invented the fact that the battle began at sunrise and that the tide was then full in. And remember, like the computations that were involved were quite immense in those days. Nowadays, we have software on computers that can take us back and show us tides and star and sun and moon positions. We can do it basically with a few clicks of the mouse and a few presses of keyboard buttons. They in the 1800s had a lot more work to do. The importance of the time of tide became evident at the close of the day, when the returned tide prevented the escape of the Danes from the Clontarf shore to the north bank of the Liffey. And I'm going to just read a little bit about a summary of the contents of Cogadh Gael Gallaibh. And there's tons of stuff. It may be that we could do several more episodes if the appetite is there. We may now proceed to give a more particular account of the contents of the present work, which divides itself into two parts. The first part ends with the chapter numbered XL and contains an account in chronological order, or what is meant to be so, of the arrival of the fleets of the Norsemen in different parts of Ireland, especially the southern or Munster district. The second part, from chapter XLI to the end, is devoted to the history of the Dáil Cois, or Munster chieftains, and particularly to the achievements of their great hero Brian, his usurpation of the throne in Ireland, for such it was, and his death in the celebrated Battle of Clontarf. The story is told very much after the manner of the Scandinavian sagas, with poems and fragments of poems introduced into the prose narrative. And as a footnote here, it may be questioned whether the saga literature was not an imitation on the part of the Northmen of the historical tales and bardic poems which they had found in Ireland. In other words, we had the idea first and they stole it from us. I think that's what he's saying. The style is inflated and bombastic, dealing largely in alliterative epithets and words of synonymous meaning, for which it is almost impossible to find equivalents in English or perhaps any other language. And this is another of the great challenges that the linguists and the philologists had in the 19th century in particular, and the 20th, was that there were often words and what's it called? Composite words, where two or three words in Irish were crammed into one word. And Morgan Daimler commented on this in her translation of Cot My Chura, where there are words where there are sort of several possibilities, but where the meaning isn't clear. And also that we might be talking about something like a poetic kenning, which is where a phrase, a combination of words actually means something entirely different. It's like almost like a nickname for what was what they were trying to say. So that's one of the challenges, is, as they say here, as Todd says here, that there are words in the Irish manuscripts for which it is impossible to find a translation. Yes, Cogadh certainly making himself heard on the live stream this evening. Michael Pike is in the house. Jiggich, Michael, you're very welcome to the live stream. Raymonda Lind is also here. And Nora Gaffney O'Connor was able to keep up throughout that section about the calculations of the tides. But I reckon that'd be a natural propensity for her, because I know that Nora sits at the kitchen table with slide rules and tables and a calculator or an abacus, depending on what you prefer, so that she can work out the optimum time for tides to go for her daily swim in the sea. See how I linked that up there, Nora? But yes, thank you. I'm glad that you were able to, and I hope the rest of you. Nora's top of the class at the moment, The love of alliteration appears in the very title of the work, Cogadh Gael Gallaibh, the wars of the Gael with the Gael, or of the Irish with the foreigners. Gael was in all probability a name given to all strangers who spoke a foreign language, and were therefore at first confounded with the Galli or Gauls, the foreigners best known to the Aboriginal Irish. Cormac's glossary, and we've spoken about that on numerous occasions, that's the one compiled by the King Bishop of Cashel, Cormac MacCullanan, in the late 10th century, tells us that pillar stones were called Gael because they were first erected in Ireland by the Galli, or primitive inhabitants of France, which is fascinating, because archaeologists now believe, modern archaeologists believe, that the Neolithic passage tomb building culture that came to Ireland probably came from France. And of course, the design of monuments like Newgrange is very similar to those found in the Gulf of Morbihan and places like that on the northwestern coast of France. After the 12th century, the name of Gaul, as we have already observed, was given to the English. After the 12th century, because before the 12th century they weren't much of a presence, and the Highlanders of Scotland employ it in the same way to denote the Lowlanders. There you go, Mandy McCurl, I didn't know that. It was evidently the generic name which included all strangers, and the compound term Cogadh Gael was given to the descendants of mixed parents, the Scandinavian Irish, who had lapsed into paganism or, having been brought up among the heathen Norsemen, were never under the Christian instruction. Fascinating stuff. Excuse me. In the commencement of the work, the author distinguishes between two distinct parties of Scandinavian invaders. The first are termed Azure Gentiles, but an older manuscript, Lochlans, and we've seen that name, haven't we, quite often in some of our stories throughout the series. The second are called Danars, or Danes. And of course, this gives rise to the whole suggestion that you'll hear in Irish folklore, in particular, in the folk beliefs of the 19th and 20th century, early 20th century, the folk beliefs that a lot of the monuments that we now know are prehistoric, possibly Bronze Age and Stone Age, were attributed to the Danes, said to have been raised by the Danes. And it's often been suggested by friends of mine and other scholars that, in fact, there was a bit of confusion there, that when they said that that monument was built by the Danes, they may in fact have been talking about the two other the Danans, rather than the Danes as in the Vikings. Some of the antiquarians, the early, like from, say, the 18th century onwards, or the very late 17th century onwards, some of the antiquarians were all too ready to attribute the construction of Irish passage tombs to the Danes, because, in their opinion, the Irish were too primitive and heathen to be able to do anything like that. And we proved them wrong with our 20th century archaeology. No inference can be drawn from the word gormglasa, translated azure, applied to the former. It signifies literally blue-green, a pale and greenish blue, glaucus. Is that a Latin word? Does that give rise to the term glaucoma? I'm not sure. Maybe somebody will know. I'm just speculating. In the account afterwards given of the Battle of Clontarf, it is applied to those of the Northmen who wore plate armour. The term can scarcely be regarded as intended to be a characteristic of the Azure Gentiles, as distinguished from the Danars, for it is omitted in the older manuscript and is elsewhere applied to the Gael or foreigners in general. But two distinct nations of the Gael are here undoubtedly described. They are elsewhere distinguished as white or fair-haired and black or dark-haired foreigners, the Danes being the dark and the Norwegians, including perhaps Swedes, the white race. So when I was talking earlier about dark and white and good and evil, that was a poor attempt at humour by me. This is more along racial lines and the colour of the skin. Shane Broderick is pointing out that some antiquarians, hello Shane, good to see you there, by the way. Some antiquarians thought the round towers were built by the Danes too. There are still people in Ireland who insist that the round towers are much older than Christianity. And I keep saying, show me the evidence, brother. Show me the evidence. The term Lochlan seems used to denote the country of the white foreigners, although not perhaps with entire uniformity. The word is supposed to signify lake land, a name which, if we understand the term lake to include fjords or arms of the sea, would well describe the coast of Norway. Interesting point. The two nations are represented as hostile to each other, and battles between them not infrequently took place. But it is to be regretted that our author does not always very clearly distinguish between them in his descriptions of their devastations in Ireland. We cannot even be sure that the name Dane is not sometimes given to the Norwegians. The word Dane in later times was certainly used to signify pirate, robber, a cruel and ferocious barbarian without distinction of nation. Wow, there you go. AC is looking for my thoughts on Conor McDarry, a work of, I'm sorry to say, a work of pseudo. It's pretty much fiction. No scholar gives it any consideration, and I've seen long-winded Facebook posts and YouTube videos about it. I've never read it, so I'm not in a position to critique it directly, but I've been inclined to avoid it on the advice of others. Shane Broderick, I know, will have an opinion about this. And Shane, if you have, you're very welcome to give your opinion on Irish wisdom preserved in Bible and Pyramids by Conor McDarry. The date of the Scandinavian invasions is defined at the beginning of the following work by the reigns of the kings of Ireland and Munster. And an interpolator adds a complete list of all the kings who were, quote, in Cashel, unquote, and, quote, in Tara, unquote, during the whole period from the first arrival of the strangers to the Battle of Clontarf. AC, is it a waste of time? I think so, but don't take my word for it. It's just my understanding, not having read it, it's my understanding that it is largely considered pseudo-nonsense, basically. The pirates, we are told, appeared when, is it archery? I can't, the characters haven't reproduced properly. Son of Cogadh was king of Munster, and Aed, it looks like Onrui, was king of Ireland. This latter sovereign began his reign, according to O'Flaherty's chronology, in the year 797, and Archery of Munster died at the beginning of the 9th century. The Annals of Ulster, however, mention the first inroad of the Northmen at their year 794, which coincides with AD 795, just to confuse matters, or 2 years before the reign of Aed Onria. The words are 794, the burning of Recru by Gentiles, and its shrines were broken and plundered. Gentiles. I always thought that Gentiles was a funny word because it almost sounds like gentle. I don't think they're that gentle at all. But anyway, I don't know if there's any a connection between the two words. Michael Trott is saying good morning from New Zealand. All humour and archaeology certainly helps the myth. The Northmen is more inclusive a term than those to a Viking. Yeah, that's very true. A very good morning, Michael. Hope your Tuesday is starting well as our Monday is ending. The Four Masters repeat the same statement under the year 790, which Dr. O'Donovan, I presume that's John O'Donovan, known by the name of, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, Brut E, that's Y, Tywyssogion. I can't pronounce that for the life of me. Or Chronicle of the Chieftains, has a corresponding record under the year 790, equivalent to our AD 795. And that reads, 10 years with 700 was the age of Christ when the pagans first went to Ireland. 3 manuscripts add and destroyed Rechren. Another form of the aforementioned Brut-E Tywyssogion, or however it's pronounced, called the Gwentian Chronicle of Caradoc of Cloncarvan, has the following record of the same event at 795. The black pagans first came to the island of Britain from Denmark and made great ravages of England. Afterwards they entered Glamorgan and there killed and burned much, but at last the Cymry, the Welsh, conquered them, driving them into the sea and killing very many of them. From thence they went to Ireland and devastated Rechren and other places. Excuse me, I need a drink. The old throat's getting dry. Donna Jean Porter affirms that, yes, we're definitely Gentiles. I don't know if that's supposed to mean marauding foreigners, or gentle people, but I'll go with both. Vicky Wallace-Southall is in the house. Hello, Vicky. And if Evan and Chili are there, a very good afternoon to you, and thanks for joining us. Stephen O'Hara thinks he's going to sneak in late unnoticed. Sit at the front of the class, please, and make sure that you pay full attention. Stephen, you're very, very welcome. Here, under the same date, we have the same fact with the additional information not found in the other Welsh chronicles, that the party of, quote, black pagans, unquote, who were the first of their nation to land in Ireland, had previously been defeated in Glamorganshire, and after their defeat there by the Gymry, the Welsh viewers will help me with that. The Gymry had sought the coasts of Ireland and devastated Recru. We may therefore safely adopt the year 795 on the united authority of the Irish and Welsh annals of the real date of the first appearance of Scandinavian pirates in the Irish seas. So just at the close, basically, of the 8th century was when things started to go a little bit hairy. It is true that they had landed some years before in England, as we learn from the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, and our author makes their arrival in Ireland somewhat later. There is not, however, any inconsistency. The year 795 is given in the annals as the year in which the foreigners plundered the island of Recru. Is that Rathlin, isn't it? Isn't it? I think we mentioned that in one of the previous episodes. An event of which the present work makes no special mention. Our author evidently speaks of them landing on the mainland of Ireland when he dates the beginning of their invasions from the regions of Aed or Ornria, King of Ireland, and of Artry, King of Munster. And I'm not sure if I'm getting those names exactly right because the characters haven't just been reprinted properly. They seem to have attacked at first the islands in which were monasteries, soft targets, as we have always said, possessing some wealth. And when they found that the spoils of these establishments were obtained with little or no resistance, they returned again in greater force and attacked the mainland. In 798, there was an invasion of the Isle of Man by the Gentiles, quote unquote Gentiles, who burned Inishpatrick, now Holm Peel or Peel Island, and plundered the country. On their return, they took, quote, spoils of the sea, unquote, which probably means the spoils of the Hebrides and other islands, quote, between Erin and Alba, unquote. These events are described in the annals of Ulster in the following words. The burning of Inishpatrick by the Gentiles and cattle plunder of the country was borne off, and the shrine of Dachona was broken by them, and the spoils of the sea taken by them also between Erin and Alba. Well, it's CYM or Y, which I think was to denote the Welsh Movanwy. Let me just double check that. Jeez, it wasn't that far back. Yes, CYM or Y. If you could help us with phonetic pronunciation of that, we would be very grateful to you. And I think at this stage, I may just continue with Cogadh Gael Gallaibh, and we can return to Matthew Stout's wonderful book in the next episode, if that's okay. I'm finding this riveting. I hope I'm not the only one. I remember reading this for the first time. I made loads of margin notes, and what I really need to do with it is to make a proper summary of it for myself in order to try and learn a little bit more of it. But I find it absolutely fascinating. I hope I'm not the only one. Barb Jordan says, yes, wonderful, brilliant. Well, that makes two of us. That's good enough for me. Our annals make no mention of inroads upon the mainland of Ireland until the year 807, which was the 10th year of King Aed Ornria, and is probably the date intended by our author as the commencement of the Scandinavian Wars. On the whole, O'Flaherty's arrangement of these events may be accepted as most consistent with the records preserved in the Irish annals and in the present work. I should also point out at this stage that we did several episodes based on the annals. Going back, I can't remember which episodes, but you'll find them on a quick search of the YouTube channel. And we certainly did encounter the work of modern scholars who suggest that after a certain period, particularly after from around this time onwards, actually, the dates are very accurate and testable, as it were, by modern methods. The annals are curiously brilliant chronicles, and very, very valuable, of course. The pirates began their devastations on the islands off the coasts of Scotland and Ireland in the year 795, which was the 25th year of Donogha, son of Donal, King of Ireland. 3 years afterwards, AD 798, in the first year of Aed Ornria, they plundered Inishpatrick of Man and the Hebrides. In 802, they burned Colin, and again in 806 plundered the same island, but perhaps not then without resistance, for 68 of the monastic society of the island were slain. Wow. So, these events are recorded in quite laconic and terse language in the annals. But one can only imagine the devastation that must have been incurred by the Vikings on the monasteries in those early parts of the incursion into not just Ireland but the islands and Scotland. That a community of monks who lived at peace were suddenly set upon and slaughtered whole scale. It must have been the most horrific thing. But anyway, these things are still happening in a way. Wayne Bird says he's looking forward to the spiral pendant. Brilliant stuff. And at this moment in time, I have the only one. But that won't last long. Just checking for comments. Mondalind gets to hear about both sides of the family ancestors. Interesting combination. And Mandy saying, yes, that's Iona, E. Column Kill. Theresa Gilroy is in New South Wales, hoping to arrive in Ireland by June. I look forward to meeting lots of Irish history and archaeology lovers. Brilliant stuff, Theresa. And a very good morning to you. You're very welcome. Irish Technical Thinker is asking, have I read the book The Eaters of the Dead about the Vikings and their culture? I have not. They made a film about the book called The 13th Warrior. Excellent book. I shall have to add it to my TBR pile. Definitely. But thanks for that. And several people, Michael Pike is finding the whole thing very interesting. Mavanwe, C-Y-M-R-Y. C-Y-M-R-Y. Kymry was how I was pronouncing it. C-Y-M-R-Y. Mandy says it's like following a thread. And Nora Gaffney says, I agree. Fascinating. Brilliant. Just be kind of saying it's pronounced Cymry. Well, there you go. I was pronouncing it wrong. What a shocker. Yes. Cymru, the Welsh. Are we saying it right? Does Mavanwe agree with the... I don't know who's... Just be kind. I can't remember what your real name is. I do apologize. These YouTube handles can be a bit of a throw. The next year, 807, they entered for the first time the mainland of the west and south of Ireland. And having burned the island of Inishmurradach, or Inishmurray, off the coast of Sligo, they advanced inland as far as Roscommon. In 812 and 813, we find them in Connacht and Munster, and they suffer more than one defeat from the native chieftains. Come on, the Irish! Finally, sorry, that sounds like I'm at a rugby match or something. Don't mention the rugby. Don't start. Come on, the Irish. Sorry, yes, I'm just rubbing it in now. Sorry, I apologize. And they suffer more than one defeat from the native chieftains. Finally, in 815, according to the chronology of O'Flaherty, or more probably, as we shall see, about 830, Turgesius, a Norwegian, established himself as sovereign of the foreigners and made Armagh the capital of his kingdom. Fascinating stuff, given Armagh's propensity to be a capital, not least of the centre of Christianity in Ireland. Mavanwe says, yes, that's the pronunciation. Brilliant stuff, and thank you for that. Just be kind. Cymru. I must remember that. Donna Jean says, my DNA results say I'm 10% Danish/Swedish. 35% Scottish. Wow. Yeah, I would say, as I always have done, that if enough of us get our DNA done, we'll find that there's a greater prevalence of Scandinavian DNA in the modern Irish population than perhaps we might think. Hail Turgis, Torgestre, hail that guy, says Genghis Khan. Just don't say hail Genghis Khan. Anyway, Tom King is saying, come on, Italy. The present work, however, takes cognizance chiefly of the depredations of the Norsemen in the southern half of Ireland. Comas o Fohi Tira was the first place, it looks like Tira, I think, was the first place at which they landed. Immediately afterwards, Inish Lauren and it looks like Dar Inish were burned by them, and they were defeated with great slaughter. by the Oanacht of Loch Lane, now the Lake of Killarney. Is that Loch Lane? Loch Lane. There is a Darinish in the Bay of Wexford called, I think it's Daior-Inis, Darinish Cavan, which was plundered by the Danes AD 820. But Darinish, or Oak Island, was a name given to more than one island in various parts of Ireland. And it is evident that the Darinish here mentioned must have been in or near the territory of the Oanacht of Loch Lane. None of these places are now known with any certainty. They were probably ecclesiastical establishments of no great wealth or importance, and having been totally demolished by the Scandinavian pirates on this occasion, their very names may have soon after perished. Wow. Brendan is suggesting that the English rugby team could have done with some Viking warriors. I have to be honest, all I knew was the result. I'm not really much of a sports fan, to be honest. I spend far too much time reading and writing and doing nerdy things, like trying to learn about Irish history and mythology, while everyone else is sensibly shouting at the TV. Yes, indeed. The first group of invasions terminated with the victory by the Oanacht of Loch Lane, which is dated in the year after the death of Divan of Aru and 10 years after the death of Arthur, King of Munster. The year AD 812 seems thus determined. The next series of inroads is said to have begun in the second year of Phelimid, son of Cruthin, King of Munster, or about 822. The places plundered by this party of marauders are all, with two exceptions, still well known, namely Cork, it looks like Inishchowru, Begair or Beggary Island in Wexford Harbour, and I wonder, is that the same name as Beckery in Glastonbury, which is derived from Bug Era or Small Ireland, Cloyne and Rosmalen. The barren rock called Skellig Michel, or Skellig Michel, well, it's Michil, but we would call it Skellig Michael, Skellig Michel, or Michael's Rock, the abode of a solitary named Ethgal or Edgal, was invaded by them, and as they probably found nothing else to take, apart from Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, they carried off its only inhabitant, who appears to have died soon after in captivity. So there you go. There is a little bit of truth in the Star Wars movies, in that at one time there was a lone inhabitant on Skellig Michael. The death of Ethgal of the Skellig is dated by the Annals of Ulster 823 or 824. Keating says that the invaders on this occasion were White Lachlan or Norwegians. Then devastations seem to have been made along the coast from Cork to Wexford Bay. That's the south coast of Ireland. For those not familiar with the geography, it was probably on their way back that they entered Skellig Michael, now the Great Skellig, off the coast of Kerry, and carried away the hermit Ethgal, the poor guy who later died in captivity. The next invasion mentioned was in the north of Ireland. Bangor, the celebrated monastery of St. Cogadh Gael, was burned. The shrine of the... What time are we on? Was that 123? We're okay. We'll go for another few minutes. The Bangor, the celebrated monastery of St. Cogadh Gael, was burned. The shrine of the saint broken. The bishop of the monastery slain, with its learned men and clergy. Just throws that in as a by the by. Yes, the bishop was slain, and the learned men and clergy. And the Mai, or plain, laid waste. But according to another reading, Mai Villa, or Mo Villa, in the county of Down, was laid waste. This act of sacrilege is dated, quote, 4 years after the death of Aed, son of Niall, at Aut da Fert, unquote. This must be Aed Ornia, son of Niall Fiasach, or is it Frasach? Niall Frasach, King of Ireland, who died, according to the Annals of Ulster, at a place called Aut da Ferta. the ford of the two miracles. Wow. In Mai Conala, or Conala Morhevna, a district nearly coextensive with the county of Louth. That's this county right here. The fourth year after the death of Aed coincides with AD 823 or 824. Our author then returns to Munster and records an invasion of the Ikinsala, the territory inhabited by the descendants of Ena Kensalach, who was the king of Leinster in the middle of the 4th century. This district coincides, is it nearly or neatly, nearly, with the present diocese of Leyland and Ferns in the counties of Wexford and Carlow. By this fleet were plundered Teach Monu, or St. Muna's house, now Taimon in the county of Wexford, or Tamon, Taghmon, Teach Mulling, or St. Mulling's house, now St. Mullins on the River Barrow in the county of Carlow, Inishtuch, now Inishtig. It's spelt Inistioge. I think that's pronounced Inishtig. A small town on the River Nore, county of Kilkenny. And the whole district of Ossory, where they were met by a spirited resistance and lost on 170 men. I wonder, did they find them afterwards with the help of a map? Oh, I think he means they were slaughtered. They demolished Dundermuya, the fort of the Oak Plain, now Dundero or Dundaro near Kinsale. Inishowen, now Inishannon on the River Bandon. Desert, looks like Tipperich, a place not now known, and Lismore. Kilmolacy, or the Church of St. Molaise, now Kilmolash, 5 miles southeast of Lismore. Cluan Ard Mavoc and Lan Lair were burned, even buried. They were burned. Obviously the text here is a little bit faded. I do apologize. Another party. You can, I believe, download a PDF copy of this entire work, and it may be in better nick than the reprint that I have in my hands. Another party of the pirates plundered looks like Schlevu, Reed Kilsleva, now Killeavy or Kilslavey, near Newry. That is in the county of Down, just about 25 miles north of here, or maybe a little bit more. And another, or the same part the same party, plundered Sword of Columkill, which is Swords in County Dublin. Dowley Keenan, the stone church of St. Keenan, which is Duleek in County Meath, literally 5 miles in that direction. And Kel Ursula, the church of St. Auxilius, now Killassie or Killashee, near Nace in the county of Kildare. Glendalough in the county of Wicklow. Would anyone know where that is? Brendan Byrne, would you have any idea where that is? Clove Uva, now Cloyne, county of Cork, and Mungret in the county of Limerick were all plundered. So as you can see, in this period of time, our Viking friends were quite busy, weren't they? Busy little bees. From the wide range of these devastations, it is probable that they were committed by more than one body of invaders, landing simultaneously in different parts of Ireland. The majority of the places named are in Munster, but some are near Dublin or in the counties of Meath, Kildare, Louth, and Wicklow. Our author gives no date to these depredations, and they are, for the most part, unnoticed by the annals. But they probably took place between the years 824 and 835. It is evident that the pirates had now found their way to the ecclesiastical establishments at considerable distances from the sea coast in the interior of the country. The monasteries and churches were the reputed depositories of wealth, the centres of civilization and of resistance. They were, therefore, the great aim of the plunderers. On this occasion, as our author tells us, the greater part of the churches of Erin were attacked. Nasty stuff. I think we're going to leave it there now, because we're an hour and a half in, And I know I spent the first 20 minutes waffling. Well, I wasn't waffling. I was saying hello to people. And then another 2 or 3 minutes or 10 talking about Tom King's wonderful work. I think we will continue because there's lots more. I think we should. I know that we're kind of rehashing what we were talking about from John Ryan's work in the first 2 episodes. But this, I think, is giving us more detail. And I think it's fascinating. I hope you agree. Must have been scary being attacked by Vikings. Yeah, there's a very famous, I think it's a marginalia in one of the manuscripts. Can't remember which one, of course. And I think our good friend Pádraig Niulachan wrote a song based on those words, which basically says something like, I'm glad the sea is stormy tonight because it means we don't have to worry about the foreigners. Basically, the monk was sitting in the scriptorium, writing one of the great sagas or whatever, copying one of the manuscripts, and was basically saying, I'm so glad there's a big storm on the sea tonight because we're unlikely to be raided by Vikings in the next few days, which is an interesting indication of just how terrifying it must have been at the time. And absolutely it must have been. Helena, do you know Olaf is the same man as Saint Olaf, as some Norse were Christian too? I did not know that, but thank you for bringing it to our attention, Helena. Salav thinks that was a great first reading of spring. Glad you enjoyed it. And do you know what? Isn't it just wonderful just that the evenings are stretching out, Fascinating stuff, Anthony. Thank you. Also lovely to see Tom's new creations. Good luck with your new wonderful work. Yes, indeed, Tom. And again, just to mention, the new pieces that are available on the website. The star attraction for me is the wearable Triskel, the baby daughter of Mammy Triskel, So previously we had the very ornate and the beautiful piece that makes for a very nice decorative item in the home, to now having one that you can actually wear, and it is fabulous. Yeah. Along with the moon pendants, large and small, and where is my spiral? Oh, there it is. And the spiral pendant. So you can get those over on the website, mythicalireland.com, gallery and shop on Cogadh Creations. Tom Lawler, I didn't realize you were there. A late hello to you. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed yourself. And we'll see you on the next episode. Glad that you were able to tune in. Michael Trott says, Munster treasure. Seems to have been quite a lot of it because, you see, it may have been that the compiler was focusing more so on the southern half of the country. I'm not sure whether I'm imagining that or introducing that as a theme. But Stephen O'Hara says, Inishtig is where I live. There you go. Brilliant. I hope I got it right. I don't think I've ever been, believe it or not. And Michael Trott also says hello to County Louth, the smallest of the counties. But as my mother always said, there's good goods in small parcels. Happy Day says hello from Balbriggan, the third of our viewers in Balbriggan this evening. Seems to be a great interest in Irish mythology in Balbriggan, and I'm grateful that you all joined us for our latest exploration of the Vikings, which will continue. Helena Breen, you're very welcome. Very glad that you were able to stay and enjoy the talk or the discussion or the reading. Tom King, who is our super smith, says, thank you so much, Anthony, and the friends of the tour. Very much appreciate all the support. Very grateful. Happy Equinox, one and all. Stay safe out there. Have a lovely week. Until next time. Yes, indeed. And I imagine that the flame of Bohermeen is still burning as we speak. Yes, I do my best, Lexi, but I do spectacularly fail from time to time. But thank you for the encouragement. And thanks to Auntie Joe. And congratulations to Tom, and indeed, best of luck. Brendan Byrne is going treasure hunting because he reckons there must still be some hidden. Well, I imagine that once the raid started, that's why they started building souterrains in Ireland, to hide from the bloody Vikings. I'm sure there's treasure hidden somewhere in a souterrain somewhere in Ireland, probably in more than one. James Cregan, I not sure if we said hello to you earlier on. Thank you very much, and I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. And of course, to all the viewers who have been able to tune in from various parts of the globe. Special hello to Niall and Roisin. Rosie, Jesus, not the first time that's happened. Not the first time a colleague called you Roisin when your name is actually Rosie. There's another. That's going to be edited out of the final version. I'm only joking. All of these get uploaded in full, including all my faux pas and my stupid mistakes, my silly jokes, my bad singing, and my desperate attempts to turn people away, and including the loud barking of Coda and sometimes the yelping of Saskia. Jack Travers says the Viking Norse are our ancestors. No need to apologize. Absolutely. But sure, look, at the end of the day, we're all one race, the human race. Mythflix treasure hunters. There's something we could do if only it was legal. And unfortunately, in this country, to use a metal detector, you need to have an archaeological license. So don't anyone get any ideas. Yeah, look for these things using a drone. And don't disturb the earth. I'm heading back over to Slieve na Cailleach just now to snug down and await one of the last equinox sunrise alignments at Cairntee in the morning. Brilliant stuff, Salve. I hope you get it. I think you will. I suspect. I hope you get a lovely sunrise. And Adrian Beglin, Ichawa Akarja, August Tufain, Adrian, until next time. Lexi is saying, we do love your jokes, but we just don't admit it. Yes. But as I said earlier on, 97% of people are stupid. I'm just glad that I'm in the other 5%. Chungus, Norse Gael, Hiberno Scandinavian Gaul Gaels in his house. Can you use dowsing rods? Yes, indeed, Sheila, but not as a means of. You can use dowsing rods to douse, but what you can't do is dig the ground as a result of anything you might, any crossing of the rods that might take place. Sylvia Sanchez is saying greetings from the west of Ireland. Sylvia, thank you. And a very good night. Hello and goodbye to you. If you have missed the episode, don't worry. It will be available to rewatch on Facebook and YouTube in a couple of minutes after we have finished. Yeah, keep watching. Cairntee Archaeoastronomy Database says, yeah, and interesting. If you saw my St. Patrick's Day episode, or if you didn't see it, you can rewatch it on the YouTube channel. But I was saying how the passage of Cairntee points towards the Hill of Slane, which is where Patrick lit the Paschal fire a few days after equinox. But the sun doesn't rise out of the Hill of Slane. It rises 4.5 degrees or 9 sun widths further north, but it climbs into the sky so that it is sufficiently bright when it's over Slane to shine into the passage and chamber of Cairntee and light up that beautiful panel of megalithic art in the rear of that compartment. Sylvia says, I have a book about Vikings in Portugal, and it mentions in a chapter about their incursions in Ireland. Yeah, they actually went as far south, I think, as Morocco. I think we said that in the first episode. They didn't stay long there. I don't know whether it was the weather or what it was. Maybe it was too hot for them, Oh, here we go. Thank you. Trina has found it. Bitter is the wind tonight. It tosses the ocean's white hair. Tonight I fear not the fierce warriors of Norway coursing on the Irish Sea. That's the one. An indication of just how aware the monks were of the danger that they faced from those northern incursions. Thanks, Olive. And no, I that's okay. Sure, look, a big part of the duty, first and foremost, of the Shanachie is not just to inform, but to entertain. So consider it my solemn duty. Michael has been watching the series Britannia. Looks like a third series is coming, more about the Roman invasion of the Celts there. Sounds interesting, Michael. Hope you're enjoying that. Brendan is suggesting the Moroccan food might not have agreed with the Vikings. There you go. They didn't spend long in the Mediterranean region. Equinox blessings to you also, Nora, and safe swimming, and hope to see you on the next episode. James Craig says there's tons of Irish treasure in the soil beneath us. Yep. We've only just scratched the surface in that regard. But anyway. we'll undoubtedly hear more about fantastic discoveries by the licensed archaeologists soon. The unlicensed ones don't use the metal detector. Not in Ireland. Law is very strict here. Thanks indeed for tuning in. I'm Anthony Murphy. This has been Live Irish Myths, episode number 174. We began these on the 12th of March 2020, so we've been going for just over 2 years. Initially every day for 103 days, and then eventually once a week. Sometimes more often. Sometimes we come back for special episodes. Movanwe says, I'm coming over to Ireland with my spade. The only place that you can dig with a spade in Ireland, apart from obviously somebody's garden, is on the beach. Build a sandcastle. Good night, everyone. Thanks a million for your company. Really enjoyed tonight, and we will return to Cogadh Gael Gallaibh because I just think it's very, very interesting, and I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only one. So we'll see you all on the next episode. In the meantime, Slán go fóill. Bye for now. Call us off. Sound sleep when you go to bed. The Australian and New Zealand viewers are only beginning their day. In the United States and Canada, and in South America, you're in your early afternoon. So don't go to sleep just yet. Slán go fóill. Ichawa, call us off. Ichawa is good night. And the most important one, which is Toga Bugge. Take it easy.